Cúis áthas dom fáilte go raibh hiag an neo seminar I seo seminar gréasán atá díre deisina fostíochtas in Aontas Eorpach. Aniu be mig díú na deisina tar fáil de tlí cheangóilethe le Gaeilge I gúirt brethúnas an Aontas Eorpach. Agus is mis Eamonn mac é, tá na stúrthir an seo rannog na institutí sa bhúna díocht na hÉireann. Bhí na téimi seo leannas fao cabadil I ré na seminar gréasán a rachtála ribh seo ag an bhúna díocht. Cuasaí Lúnas in Aontas Eorpach, na ná airneacha in Institutí an Aontas Eorpach, deisina de dlí cheangóilethe agus prúfléitheoirí le Gaeilge, deisina I réimse na talmhaíochta, sláinte agus sábháilteach bia, ateangracht agus aistrachan, cosint sonraí, agus le déirní díreach na deisina tala fáil sa réimse ricáilíse. Is féidir brathnú ar seminar gréasán amarbe ar chuntas YouTube DFA. Tá dlúnasc idir rathúnas na hÉireann amach anseo agus ar máilbhíocht san Aontas Eorpach. Tá tuiscint wath agus dlúnasc le Institutí agus gníomhaireachtaí an Aontas Eorpach le na chinú gur féidir le éireann leanúint le ranfáchtaíocht éifeachtach leis an Aontas Eorpach. A chur san áireamh, I mealtaine 2021 cheol an rialtas stratéis nua a bhfuil sé mar aimléithí cur le chunadíocht forna na hÉireann an Institutí agus gníomhaireachtaí an AI. I deanta le roinnt bart ulmhíonach sa stratéis, is gné hábhachtach I na seminar gréasán seo dar gcuid iarachtaí cur lenar nonadíocht forna. Deirdín sa caite cheol an Aontas Eorpach comórtas le haid dlí cheangóilethe le Gaeilge, agus is sé an féhéanú lá den nullag an sprocáta atá luúte leis an gomórtas. Sa lár ófar tuile eolais faoin gomórtas áirithe seo I rith seminar gréasán an láinniu. Sa lochraíonn an rainn gnóthaíochtacha tacaíocht do Héireánnig airneacha a bhfuil iarratas a dhéanamh acu ar fus san Aontas Eorpach ag gach céim den phróiseas lena nóirítar pácáistí cleachta ar lína agus uillint duine le duine ag brathir chéim an chomórtas. Déan tagáilín trí riomhfosta cheola ag EU Jobs at DFA.ie má tá iarratas a dhéanamh agat ar fust san Aontas Eorpach. Tá cóla practicúil le fáil ar híomh gréasán post san AI na rainn gnóthaíochtacha, do riine ar spéisló garan an Institutí an Aontas Eorpach, agus bhfuilín go gach duine cuairte an sih. Inis, bhfuilm fáilte chu ribh ar gaiinteoirí aniu. Tá Julia O'Farrell agus Seán O'Mahony a gobar mar dlí cheangóilethe le Gaeilge sa chuairtréúnas faoi láthair. Le róidh siad faoin ról atá acu faoi láthair agus faoine ganarí garna. Tá Maria SERFIOTI a gobar san Aontas san Oifig Eorpach an bhfuilnú forna agus jelly si cruisias ar an gomórtas seo. Tá fuirbhíocht in na cantóirí as a bheith in ar deanta aniu. Ba deis agad ceistena a chur trí ordán Slido. Ba cheart dul cho fada leis an leanach gréasán SLI.do agus úsáid a bhaint as an ggód #EU Jobs chun an chóras a churbun. Ní gátlóú is féile duine de seo dhéanamh. Cúis áthas dom fáilte chuúh ar fadaniu. Curmis túis leis an seminar. Is í Julie an chéad cantar aniu. Julie, raiglaat, gur mágad.
Gur mágad Eamonn agus gur mágad as an gcuire. Se tá sé gobar mar glíthe an ggólaí leis an gcuirt bhrethúnas I Luxembourg. Le 3 bliana inis thosaigh mé in 2018. Agus bím sé gobar mar glíthe an ggólaí agus tá roinnt cuairmí banistíocht orm sa freisin san éad. Ach le roiimid inniu faoi ról an dlíthe an ggólaí. An chuí ar tháinig mé ar an bus seo sa deire, bhí mé gobar réimse na Gaeilge sa bhaile, rinne mé an bhain céim sa galamh ní raibh deis in tanga dhéanamh leis an uair sin ach tá an deis sin an inis agus mollam de aon duine má tá an deis sin a gata de bhain céim smuoinnig ar é a hapú go mór mar tugann sé an deis de teach an seo leis de gar an bheitthe. Rinne mé an bhain céim BCL, rinne mé mástrucht a bhíoch ar an garthrua mástrucht san eistán reachtaíocht agus dlí Agus in iu sin bhí mé gobar le fiontar in DCU mar in dhéantar comháil an monachar náisiúnta termíochta sin well focail dalaí a bhí an uair sin inis terma.caí atá. A bhí mé gobar go príomh an tionstal lex an uair sin agus mar chuide sin bhí mar chur bonachar termí dlí le chéile hermí a asbuinú ó instríreachtúla agus bhí mar chur tá obair sin le feicáil guis.caí an Corpus Córóver. Agus bhí mar gobar an tionstal Aodha an sin soláthrítar termí do bhanachar Aodha an levéil sin is tionscadal iontach maithé sin idir na institúí agus rialtas na hÉireann molum gomóra tá sé fós ar bon. In iu sin sig mé gobar le ranóg an astraán i seirbhíse an Oireachtais mar astrathóir. Sin sin an áit neantar astraán ar reachtaíocht phríomha na hÉireann, reinstin reachtaíocht tháinaisteach agus na pápéir dála agus seanad gach lá. Agus más astrathóirú well an uair sin tá sé aithríonis más astrathóir a bhí tú de atangara freisin don dáthach agus dus na coistí. So thug sé sin léirgus éiteach dom ar an obair chunasa dá aon duine bhfuil bunchéimachú sa dlí tá se an na himúil mar bíonn tú ag gleanúint céimena na millí tríd na tuthe go dtí gan intar na hachtaí iad. Agus san sin ar nóítáis goin is dóilm go léir go bhfuil go méid bhithe dó ina blion an táhachtach an Gaeilge san Eorp mar beag deir leis sin mhailú atá ar an teanga. Agus mar sin thula mé go raibh an chuirt freithúna ag olbhú le haidh sin agus ag arcú daoine ar chunarthaí sealadocha. So tháinig mé háil chuna bheith gobar leis an gúirt ar feith réimhse agus well is sifiúch bún mé inis agus neidir beidir go bhainnig mé go dó beag le feiceáil. Ach tá anna deisna gin faoi láthair marhealar an olbhúáin sin agus san bblion anna táhachtach atá roin, mar tasóí an chuirt ag aistriú gach rud a ailseoidí ó bhidó ó géadlád a bhí anar bhidó beag siad le heistriú go Gaeilge. Mar sin príomh mórmh na hibre a dhéanaan san bhí hangólaí sa chuirt ná brethúnas na cuairte agus tuairimí na neamhcóidí generálta a aistriú go teanga an éinead. Mar sin beimiid ag aistriú na brethúnas agus na tuairimí go Gaeilge. Agus ní mór de marrá go bhfuil an rancíis an hábhachtach sa chuirt mar sí an rancíis teanga na bléití agus dréchtítar na brethúnas sin sa rancíis. Mar sin beimiid ag aistriú an rancíis go Gaeilge. Agus tuairimí na neamhcóidí generálta is féidir le sin a bheith i dangachaí éagsúla ach den cuid is mó bíonn siad na cín pívó sé hanga a bhfuil stádas ar leithecú sin an rancíis a ríis, an béarla, an Gearmánis, an Idolis, an Spánis agus an Folanis. So tá anna chuid ibre roin as mar sin táimeid ag arcú faoi láthair go tréin. Luigh Eamonn an sin go bhfuil comórtas EPSO ar oscailte gin sin comórtas le haidh postbúin mar dlí hangólaí linn san éinead agus beag Maria SERFIOTI ó EPSO ag leart faoi sin níos mion sonré ar níos déanaí mar sin fáci mé an tólas sin choki. Ach tá sé sin ar oscailt faoi láthair má tá céim agat sa dlí is féidir leat iartas a churas dachar ní gá amach cáilíochtaí agat na teangachaí. Agus beidir go luhí Maria é seo ach dus deirhí mé mar luí mé an rancíis an sin go bhfuil sé an hábhachtach sa chuirt agus tá ach don chomórtas seo ní gá amach an rancíis agat teanga héin sin an Gaeilge teanga dó sin ceantas na sé pívós a luigh mé an sin mar sin an béarla in a másc agus teanga trí éon ceann de hangacha ifigúla eile an Aontais. So tá sé sin oscailt faoi láthair agus tá sé oscailt go dtí an tainú lás bhithe de bhí na nollag. Tá próisis fada go leor san forum iartas mar sin mollam gan é ágant don nóméid deirí. Ach is fiú go mór iartas chuirteach mar próisis fada atá an a gomórtas EPSO agus tógi sé blian is dóilm chun dul tríd. Agus freisin bíon muid ag arcú dlí hangólaithe ar chunarthaí sealadocha go minic tá bhí comórtas a gcuin le déanaí agus mar sin níl muid ag ghlacha le hirirtas faoi láthair agus féidir a gcónaí CV a chur ará agus cuin áforthú ar an eolas machchan seo. Go bhfiosdom sin a bhfuil ará an faoi láthair an bhfuil éon cheist an bhfuil sin soléire Eamonn.
Really tá sin iontach a gála just beagán a fleistáil fút féin agus conas mar a hála go bhfuil tú sa ról an bhfuil tú faoi láthair agus an son beagáning faoin ról féin agus ar nói cóhéic an bhfuilú freisin agus cotácht agus a bheith an príomte caite de cóhéic sin. So beidir beag ceistena agus beisiad ar Slido ag an tamaling beidir go dógamid na ceistena lig lena chéile go Derek agus ag an buinte seo Bogam with a rai, agus Curamud Fáilte with Seán, a Fáilte Road, a rai glad.
Gurmil Magat a Eamonn, agus Gurmil Magat as achsocht an gura gutinov, gutinov. Con me féin a charnahana dív is mis Seán Mahuna, Seán Mahani is as Corky do Morukush, agus Marianne Julie, Tom ag opar an seo gort for Húnis an the Shorpig Luxembourg. Le nach mór Carolyn in us inis tá hána méáil I gábhílas hochtúg. Ó heh mo chúlra féin de rinne Marianne le Julie chuma an fun céim sa dlí de bhí an deis a gomsa buic de dí tanga dhéanamh le mo chéim sa dlí mar sin de rinne céim sa dlí agus sa rankis. De chamé bblion I Strasbourg leling mo freisis nóscoil agus in dhéag sin de rinne Maastricht sa is Tlín Harpa sa Velig mar sin is biogan tréimh just stocha bhí ó Darren Maastricht agus mé tacht sa Luxembourg beidir sé bhín mar sin mar éon le Julia stocha de thug mé faoi chomórtas de chunir sealadoch mar trí hangolí agus is stocha ó heh practicúlachta de is de bhí ann an son ná bíon scrúdú astrachan na gceist is stocha I gcuiteine mar sin bíon text na astrú ón rankis go gailge agus ó bhéirle go gailge nó mar a bhí doingne ó gailge bhéirle brandse sin is stocha ach mar sin an méid obairtá á dhéanamh gom an só ó hán mé an só well I dús bar stocha bhí cuasaí sais casta os rud nach raibh mór an doing ó heh iirinde nor han mission ar a bhach trúir in éad gailge agus tá bur agus fast tá goring le déanaí so tá hartar fithe scór glíine going inis agus mar deir Judy tá beag daine eile ag tacht le cúnamh dé rih na haflín nor a ag deir ag tacht leis an mhaolú ó heh an obair is tócha faoi lethe átuairt faoi a going le cúpla bliana nuas I dúspáir a bhíoring aláin obair dhéanamh ó heh an cost bhí starú le astrú is iad sin is tócha na cost na fíorthachtacha a dhéanfá stad ar thus nódscoil agus as a winter an túfás termíochta agus is iad san na cost na luachtar a gcuiteine go fíor vinnic agus is tócha méid áú a going gas na amachchan seo. Ó heh is tócha beidir ein bhile bheocha gom doghine tá chuisteach na puist seo mar a deir Julie agus ní féidir an numar go béime chuir seo ach an méid tácht a bhaine leis an brancus seo sa chóirt is institute faoi le ó heh úsáid na tangade mar sé an tain institute bhfuil an rancus a céib mar tanga ibre mar sin fiú go bhfuil tú an chuirteach ar na postna seo gan rancus a bheith go ní féidir an numar go béime a chur ar an mó francus is tá go a bare an nó sé sin is tócha neadidir mar a deir Julie chuma bhfuing déine gan ágant chuig an nóméid dearnach chun chuirteach ar an gomórtas EPSO mar bíonn si de pean verle golóir chun na hirirte sin líana amach. Bhfuing déine tacht saolar chunar sealadoch mar le Julie de hosting mis amachar chunar sealadoch agus bíon deisna an nó am go ham chun tuairt faoi chomórtas in bhenach chun buin fost a bhaint amach. Seachas sin Tom seo ar fáil de déon cheistena a bhfuil géine ó heh stoch cuairmí an fuist ó heh na scéalna atá ag tastáil chun an postí dhéanamh nó an corchuige goteine chun chuirstachar na puist seo. Gur míle maith go éis Eamonn.
Gur de Seán agus rí an sanú de scéal héna fuistáil. Tugann sé sin is dóilm seans do bhaoine hiiscint gur féidir réimsí áirithe a bheith I do chúla agus tú chuirstachar na postana seo. Ítach freisin bheith an tuistáil faoin bura tá take bhfuair néad an son sa chuirt. Tá sé sin tátoch agus is gur goléiríonn sé an dul chun céine tá dentig an gaige start in Europe. We've heard from Julie and Seán a little bit about their own stories in terms of what their background has been, what their work involves, and a little bit of the context that they're working in, and that's been very helpful. And it brings us, I think, neatly to hear from our third speaker today, Maria SERFIOTI from EPSO. Maria is going to talk us through the nuts and bolts of this competition. So the floor is yours, Maria. Thanks for being with us again today.
Thank you, Eamonn. Thank you for having me here with you today to talk to you about the selection procedure of EPSO that we organize. I'm just going to have a short presentation just to walk you through the different steps. So I hope now that you can all see it. We're looking for 35 lawyer linguists on Irish language at the Court of Justice, as already discussed. And the duties, I'm not going to go through them because I'm sure Julie and Seán has already discussed those. So what are the conditions in order to apply and be eligible? Well, first of all, you need to have full rights as an Irish citizen or any other member state of the European Union, to meet any obligations under the national laws on military service, and to meet the character requirements for the duties concerned, which is a general rule for appropriate behavior and ethical standards. What are the specific conditions? So we're looking for completed university studies attested by diploma in law as a barrister or a solicitor. If those studies are over 4 years over, you do not need to have professional experience. If those studies are under 3 years, then 1 year of professional experience is required, but be careful, professional experience on this field. And lastly, we're looking for thorough knowledge of 3 EU languages. Now, about the languages, I'll just go a bit in more detail. So 3 EU languages required. The first one, it has to be Irish, a minimum knowledge of C2. Then you will have to select in your application your language number 2, and it has to be one of those 6. And the minimum requirement of your knowledge has to be C1. And lastly, it is also required that you have knowledge of another 3rd EU language, which must be different from the first, from Irish or any of the other 6 that you select. And the knowledge required for the 3rd language is also C1 at least. This is slide shows you the procedure a bit overview, and I will talk to you in the next slides in detail, in depth. So it all starts by applying online and also filling in the talent screener. Then the next step will be preliminary translation tests. And if you're successful in those and you have the pass marks, then you will be invited to the assessment center. The assessment center consists of 2 different types of tests, the reasoning test and the competency tests. And lastly, the marks of your test on the translation test and the assessment test will be added. And if you have highest marks, then you will be in the reserve list from which the Court of Justice will select their laureates for to be recruited. Now, let's see them a bit in detail. So the application has to be done in Irish. Part of your application will be to fill in the talent screener. Now the talent screener is a set of questions where all applicants have to fill in, and those will be used in case that the applicants are very high. So we're like about, if it's over 700 applicants, then there will be a pre-selection based on that those questions. So it's very important because the selection board will do this pre-selection only on this talent screener section. So it's important that even if there is information on your education and your experience in another part of the application, you need to repeat it in the talent screener, because that will be mainly and only what the selection board will look at in case they need to do this pre-selection. On the Annex 1 of the notice of the competition, you will find a list of criteria that the selection board will focus and will consider in order to do this pre-selection. Following that, there will be the preliminary translation test. These are 2 computer-based tests that could take place without the help of the dictionary. And apologies for this. There's a pop-up. Okay. Sorry for this. So there will be 2 computer-based translation tests, no dictionary to be used for those. The first one will be translation into Irish on a legal text drafted in your selected language 2. And the second will be a translation into Irish of a legal text drafted in your selected language number 3. Each test will be 110 minutes. If you you will need to have the pass marks in order to be invited to the assessment center. Important that if you fail the first one, then your second test won't be marked. So that will be the end. So you have to have at least the pass marks for the first in order to continue on the second test. So the assessment center has, as we said, 2 parts. It has a computer-based reasoning test, consists of verbal reasoning, numerical and abstract reasoning tests. Those will take place in Irish and could be online or in person at EPSO's accredited centers. No pass mark is needed for those tests, but those marks that you obtain, they will be counted towards your final overall mark. And then there will be an additional set of tests that will take place to evaluate your general and field-related competencies. And these competencies will be tested through 3 different tests: the situational competency-based interview, and then you see on the slide which ones will be correspond to how will be tested. There will be also competency-based interview, and then lastly a field-related interview. And during that interview, you will be asked to give an oral presentation. So your scores will be added in your own marks scored in the translation test in order to give your final overall score. And then the selection board will check all the supporting documents that you have submitted, and they will prepare the reserve list for those eligible candidates who have obtained all the pass marks required, which is an overall out of 300 marks. So how to apply? This is the link that will take you straight to the landing page of the competition. The notice of the competition is the legal document, which I would advise you to read thoroughly because it contained all the details about the selection procedure, about the duties, and what each test would contain. So all the information about the procedure. And also there is a link that has some information and instruction about how to apply online in case you have not done this before. And as well as you can find sample tests in our website on those tests, so that you can see how examples of what you should expect. And lastly, there is a link that takes you to the anchors to assess the competencies. Don't forget the deadline is the 21st of December. And also in this slide, I'm including a link to the rules and the rights that you will have if you are successful as an EU civil servant. That's all from my side. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer to any questions you have.
Thanks very much, Maria. We've got used in this series of seminars to your clarity and the way in which you present what sometimes are slightly complicated procedures in a very understandable way, and we very much value that. And we've had feedback from many of those who viewed earlier webinars along the same lines. So just to acknowledge that and to thank you again for being here. I wanted maybe to kick off the Q&A with just a clarification from my own understanding. In relation to the computer-based testing, Maria, you said that there's no pass mark as such, but that your marks will be combined from that into your overall result, as it were. Is that a new departure, or is that something that has been there throughout?
No, this is actually new. This is just for this specific competition. So yes, it's something that is just for this one. So it's the first time, at least I've seen, that there's no pass mark for those tests. So it's actually good to see.
Yeah, no, I think based again on our feedback, on our extensive contact with candidates, etc. Sometimes people in this language field in particular don't relish. Although I think it's true maybe in a number of sectors, they don't necessarily relish the computer-based tests, and yet they might be highly qualified in terms of the language piece. So I do think this should be taken as an encouragement by those thinking about maybe applying for this, but who are a little hesitant because of the computer-based testing side of things. So just maybe to emphasize that point. Can I go to a second question?
Can I just say
Julie,
one thing?
please. Yeah,
even though you don't have, even though there's no pass mark, it's important to prepare for them and do well in them anyway, because the points do add on to your final score. So I realize it's not going to be eliminatory, but you should prepare still. It is possible to prepare by doing sample tests, and they are available as Gaeilge.
No, that's a really important point, Julia. And indeed, I suppose it was the eliminatory piece I was focusing on, but it's very important.
Yeah, no, I
focus
understand.
on that other piece. Yeah. It's very important to focus on that other piece. You're absolutely right. In what will be a competitive field, you need to prepare for these. They are things that can be prepared for. And again, that's our experience from candidates, those who sit down and really take the time and use those practice materials that are there. These things can be mastered by people, and it is important to take the time to do it, not least for the reason you mentioned, Judy. So thank you. That is a very important point. Let me just go to some of the feedback and questions that we're getting on Slido. One of the questions I've just had, and I think this is probably for you, Maria, but please, Seán or Judy, feel free to jump in. The question is essentially, does this mean that a 3-year Bachelor in Civil Law degree applicant with less than 1 year professional experience is ineligible to apply, is not eligible to apply? Or does a 3-year requirement apply only to solicitor barrister qualifications and not undergraduate degrees? Maria, can you cast some light on that? Julie and Seán, likewise.
I have to admit something. This requirement is in Gaelic in all languages, so it's in Irish language. So I've tried to translate it quickly, but maybe my Julie or Seán can really specific say about this.
It's sorry to put you on the spot, Maria.
Sorry about that.
I didn't realize that, but of course you're right. That bit is not translated into the other ones. It applies to undergraduate degrees. If it's a 3-year degree only, you must have 1 year of professional experience also.
I think Castella, the next question is refers to the I suppose the reference to 700 applicants, less and more, and the cutoff point that applies there. And I suppose the questioner is asking, are you expecting 700 applications? Have you any idea of what the size of the field is likely to be?
I was actually impressed myself when I read the notes of the competition and I saw the numbers. I will be surprised if we have more than 700 applicants, to be honest. But I don't know how is the market and in Ireland. But
I would say it's
unlikely
unlikely that we will have 700 applicants, and also it's a very ambitious amount for a list for laureates also. So do not think that just because they were looking for a large amount of laureates that it will be easy to get on the list either. You still have to prepare very well for every stage of an EPSO competition. But I assume, Maria, you can correct me about this, I assume the talent screener is, that applies to all EPSO competitions. So it's not, I mean, you can't just not have it, like it has to be there.
Yes, actually, it's in the latest ones that we have, and it's important what you said, Julie, because even if probably there won't be more than 700 applicants, I would propose and recommend that you still pay attention and fill in very carefully the talent screener, because the selection board will consult it. And to make sure that you have all the information there, even if it's somewhere else in your application, so the talent screener have it still as complete as possible. And
even if it won't be applied, I assume your application will not be eligible if it is not filled out.
Yeah, so it's better to I would put everything in and be prepared, even if more likely there won't be 700 applicants, but just to be sure that
we have a great advantage really, because other languages would have at least 700 applicants for some of these roles. So the competition can be quite fierce, but for us it's very unlikely we will have 700 applications now.
Jerry Will and Carter got on some Julie agus is pointy táach taréis anmhan son. Tá ceist eile take Slido agus chuirme an ceist sin in éon díle ceann atá an féin agus is really den bhirt agah se Julie agus Seán is mó atá si seo díreha beidir Maria. The first part of this question is coming in on Slido, and it says, in the interview, will there be questions relating to the applicable legal system, i.e. as an Irish solicitor, will I be asked questions on Irish law, or will the interview not be so specific? That's the first part of the question. I might ask Maria, Julie or Seán to comment on that, and then tá Portella or Castella tá Biogani Strokena a chuig na héine iad sin. But let's take that one first. I don't know who wants to come in on this, but the question really is about the specificity of the questioning in the interview stage as to the Irish legal system.
Yes, apologies, I had a technical issue. Just gonna so the interview, the notes of the competition says that you will be assessed on your specialist knowledge and command of the language in the field of national law and European law. So that is the information that it's in this for the field-related competency, and that you would need a pass mark of 10 out of 20.
Okay, thank you. Julia agus Seán, I bhfuair daithí féin bhfuil éon achmhaí nó cuasaí faoi le atá úsáide chun tuiscinteáil ar an réimse policy seo. Tá sé cinál sa tró céine leis an chéad ceist an son a tháinig isteach ar Slido.
Gur mágad Eamonn, ó thaobh an astraán agus cuasaí astraán lí tá ilamad cuasaí ar fáilte anois agus annach chuid acu ar lína le fiú ribh COVID bhí siad ag dul ar lína. So mollam go mór mar a bhfuil aon taithí rilí agat ar an Gaeilge oifigiúil is fiú cuasa éigeanna dhéanamh ionas go mbeidh de chud gramadaí ar an level tá ag teastáil, mar tá ordóir scileanna gwelir tastal gan a bheith ag obair in ornéad. Ó heh an Slido is dóilem gur féit go bhfuil tú an é sin féidir a staidir tú hain mar bhfuil tú roiada ón muncéim ach nílam rócínta faoin na cuasaí faoi éon cuasa kind of tapaí a détá dhéanamh ó heh an Slido ach má tá an bhuncéim a got tá anna chuid dólas a got cibé just brean sé ar cé cófada an muncéim is atá tú i a héil ach ó heh an eiscán de agus an eiscán dlíthúil tá anna chuid ar fáilt anna chuid dearan go bhfuil roinnt den ólas a gcuibh se fiú a Eamonn in EU jobs an bhfuil.
Yes, it's quite in a hackman on son. Seán, will ein dark a good fein ar sin? Madula achfunny no cursi file no Daliela con to hain a rate to already than mortus.
Mar Julianson is toch nachfuléin Corsaun a mefa na déanamh lastig de mis nu mar sin ach chomala sin is toch an rud a bheith geisles gomarta seo heh an scrúdú aistechan agus riile ná begart takes na dlí agus takes na dlí a bhain le dlí na harpa is toch a astrú an Frankis go gailge nu an merle go gailge I brantar an tanga bhfuil a gut. Agus stocha tá an túfás achní ar lína stocha ó heh na dlithe an éanta seorpa heh na chunarthaí an reachtaíocht go léir agus stocha dolamón díon beidir léamh ar roint achtainna ar na chunarthaí ar chun an termíocht is táchtaí áil a bheith gut chun tuairtfuoin aistúchan sa chmórta seo agus tú héana an termíocht sin a chur an aithne de té stocha sin an méid a bhlinn do rií sin an rud stocha rinne mé héin ag brahantar an levéil na gailge tá got agus le ag tatasteach chuig mórta so mar deir Julie is fiú go mór tuairtfuoi cuasa fiú le an fiú mar bhfuil tú ná é an rih chmórtais well mar an chmórtais is toch mar sol déine tá alles a bhfuil alles go EPSO mar an chmórtas í EPSO hart ar bblion nu níos mó mar sin tá beag de go is toch teosachar de chuid tanga rih tatasteach a bost ar échama ach rih an tuairt faoin chmórtas féin just bhfuil do níos toch dolimón díon stad ar cuasaí dlí an éantais leis na haachníítá an ar lína.
Agus tá ceann anna ábharchas dóil an bhí an céad chás an ghilge a gcuine im léana bhí bhfuil tá go an brethúnas im léana mar sin tá sé sin ar fáilt ar lína an ghilge an brethúnas is féidir leat an rancíise léamh in éanacht leis an legan ghilge so bhag sé sin go mád aon duine bhag ag stadéir.
Ja, sin an sáide chu fad. Couple ceile ar Slido is Durham which is through the Hogan, but Maria, just to confirm a couple of questions on Slido. One, what language will the interview take place in? August. The second one is, can you confirm again the level of competency required for the translation from French, please? C1 or C2?
That's a very good question, actually, because I'm trying to find the information. And
the interview is in Irish.
Is it in Irish? Because it's not
the assessment center is in Irish. Yeah, level Changa language 1.
Thank you, Julie. Yeah. And for the French, so one of the 6 languages that you have to have as language number 2 is minimum knowledge of C1.
C1, and then your Irish has to be C2, so you have C2. To know, be able to translate from C1 into C2. Yeah,
and again, that brings us maybe neatly to another question. There's a lot of interest and an active participation from those watching today, and somebody has posed the question: what type of legal text will be required to be translated? For example, an opinion of the Advocate General, or a judgment, or a reference for preliminary ruling, or could it be a text from any of the EU institutions?
It will be a legal text. I can't get very much more specific than that, but it will be a legal text of some kind.
Indeed, we don't know the details. That is up to the selection board to know exactly what kind of text that will be, but indeed will be legal. That's the only information we have as well.
Okay, and then I think again we've covered this one. Is relevant professional experience in the legal field or in legal translation specifically required? So what does relevant professional
doesn't have to be legal translation, no. Legal translation is not required.
That's very, very clear. Thanks for that. Maybe drawing towards a close, there are a few more questions, but I'd like to focus a little bit on just the professional development side of things and also just the living in Luxembourg piece. So better Keshno go on sun gur ceart a chur. Cicada agus Shada Julie agus the Seán. Cén sais jeisne atá an don ein Herbert sa róla tágaí. An bhfuil ferber déint aga bhar skill tanga breise ó hasig sin sa fust. An réintre sinna le, a bheit fá just beit an virtual beidir fogan go rá fú sin. Julie.
Sé cínta gur mágad sin a lua mar swinnig mé ar níos luhin ar a bhí seán ag leabhart. Tá bíon anna deisig na dlí an ggólathe gcónaí a chuid skillanna tangacha Herbert, mar bíon ar an le chur leis na skillní sin go minic. So bíon ranganí tangan ar fáilt. Cai is gá goach sin a tanga ifgiúil a chud an Aontas an tanga atá tú ag tuairt faoi. So tar éis duit beidir fios a chur de chud Frankise, bíon deisigat an sin tanga eile aráú. Mar a tharlíonn sé measam gnearna mé héin agus Seán an tanga an ceathrú tanga céine an Spáis. Tá Seán cricní leis agus tá mise ina man faoi láthair agus tá cuasaí well tá gá cinál cuasa tá an gná cuasa bíon tú beidir I ranganí le cóglacathe ó institútí eile agus an sin tá cuasaí olúna sonracha le stig den chuairt do glíthe ggólathe, so fólamíonn tú antanga ar bhealach éagsúil agus beaganí níos tapi. So tá sé sin an na gcónaí agus bíon anna fáilte ar sin na gcónaí. Now, bhhaile marrá beidir luamar nachhfuil an rancí sé tastáil don chomórta seo nach gá goach sé agat. Ach is dóil am má hagann tú gan an rankis begart tuairt faoin rankis nuair a hagann tú mar luigh Seán tá sí anna hábhachtach sa chóirt agus fiú nuair a bhíonn feib a gcuine le feib technoliaachta bí mu ag dagáil leis an helpdesk I rankis, you know, bín tú dagáil leis na seirbhísí eile sa chóirt I rankis sa céadát. So sin a Seán ar bhile aon rud ará faoi de chóir sa tangan.
Jere ní mar an le chuir leis gom an sun is stochtán an chud is móide plate ag Julie ach mar der si tá an túfás deisna an seo heh chud skill na tanga Herbert hí stoch an talm sa gur well levéil Frankis magalóir gom nor hanime agus bhí mé ná tosú godíachar an Spáis agus is stocha luigh Julian sin níos luúthe na tanga capivo agus is iad son na stoch an na tangacha a meid deise got I dalam agus well beg nu a bheith a meid degúil go sorti dalam a thuisgus a bheith tú creit na heile an Frankis an seo is iad sin a rís an Idális an Germánis an Spáis agus an Fullinis ag fágan tamachchan an Béarla agus an Rankis is stoch chomáile sin bíon skillne ó hef skillne forberthe gutine bín treála going ar connoisseurlaí astrachan nua úsáid con sto an orlaí astrachan le machine agus legs technoliacht forbert technoliacht atá tatasteach sa garum. Agus is deisiúntaach is an chomá déin duna bhfuil I ggéirigh sto go garma bhaint amach san astrachan a gutna ach seachas sin níl mrán le chur gom leis an méid bhí rásig Juliach is deisiúntaach tá na scrúda na dín a cuasaí son na luigh si faoi dín a cuasa de dlí hangólathe sa tanga tád son ar fáil agus ar an gcuí sin bíonn an talam an tanga ólam níos tapúla bíonn siad dín na rohan na cuasaí son ach bíon an túfas le buint asta chomá agus is siú go mór iad.
Se luigh Seán na cuasaí ó lúna donna bogar í Astracán ní blúsáidimid stradas sa chuairt agus ní gagamach ein réamh haithí ag daoine ar stradas ach cairíonn sé detain má hagann tú le 6 óla séir. Like, bíonn cuasa ó lúna an ach tá sé dírithe ar na dlíthe ggólathe i ngach éanad, mar sin ní héige míonn sé dírithe ar do hanga hain. So tá canal YouTube ag trados agus is féidir rudí a chuardach an sin ach bíonn sé le úsáid, bíonn airta úsáid inis rilé mátá tú a gurí bheith obair mar astrathóir na léanta seo. Ní gá bheith scantraí faoin technoliacht tá sé úsádach is uirla sí agus cabhraíonn sé go mórlinn san obair.
Just hopping back into, I suppose, something kind of specific, there's another question that just popped up on Slido, which I will ask as a penultimate question, and it's how long approximately will the assessment day take? Maria, do you want to maybe?
Good question. That could be, well, the assessment center could be online and could be in person. That we don't know yet. That you will be informed as a candidate from your account closer to the dates, because it all depends also with COVID and how things develop in the different countries. So it could be 1 or several days, actually. That's what it's meant. That's what is mentioned in the notice of the competition. That's all, unfortunately, that we know at the moment. But this you will have this information in advance once you pass the first stage.
Thanks, Maria. Agus muid teach chun Derek beidir ceist agam dúlaí agus Seán. An bhfuil éonáis cóirla scur nó mulla scur, rud nó go a bhfuil fá thar aon rud eile agus daoine ag fáil réad an comárta seo. Julie.
Se mollim go mór tú héanachar faoi scrúdathe Astracán, clachta dhéanamh sin. Tá anna chuid den reachtaíocht Eorpach ar fáilt ar Eorlex luigh Seán na conirthaí agus na rialacháin natá Aistria go Gaeilge. So an rud a dhéanhin nuair a bhí mise ag olabhú rachan go dtí an siomh sin agus fiochan amach ceann a bhí Aistria go Gaeilge an Srméigean an sin churthain an Gaeilge faoi ceilt. Is féidir le taspáint príthangach a dhéanamh fiú ach bheadh an rancí se gom nó an béarla dhéanhin thógann slochtas, churthain an timer ar siúil agus dhéanhin iireachta Astriú agus an sin churthain an iireachta rinne mise I gcomparáid leis an legan fáilsithe Gaeilge. Sin an rud is fearr a dhéanamh I mothuairim anna chuid clachta ar Astracán agus faoi ar an glog, mar sin an rud nuair bhíonn tú ag Astriú go háirithe mar an dhearnan tú mór an trílacha Astracán ribh seo, téan an tám anna stiopi agus bíonn se imi, ní bhíonn tú fiú críochnithe. So bí ag dul daithí ar an rú ama. Agus mar a luigh Seán tá an teirmíocht iontach dábhachtach, na teirmí, bíoch anamnacha na institúí ar ólas sa gát, tá agus na mór hairmí tá sé decarí a rá go bhfuil si ar fáilt in éon áit amháin, ní thiocfaí tú orthú ach agus tú ag léamh beidir na hinstrumí. Ach tá sé sin anna habhachtach darlamsa agus ar nói an achfan is mó an bíbla an caidan ifigiúil, cai tú a bheith ag scríbhú ar an caidan ifigiúil agus na rialacha sin a ormú I gcónaí.
Gur mágad Julie an úsáideach I Seán?
Mar an ggéan le Julian san hacón leis an méadtáráte cé agus is tócha daoine atá ag olabhú do chomárta seo ní bheith mar bhfuil deis go stadéir dul an díon stadéir chuil lár cuasaí dlí agus ar text na rachtúla agus ar le Olin Dania, Fanny Dagwall, the Chitanga decision. Another chance go around Dini Horstock or will go get caught new Ock Bader knock me or who saw it, Le Pamela no Suggerda, Fanny Dagwall, the Chitanga, big lave, big Ashtock, pay Tanga, will go big sheet on Rankish and Spanish and Germanish, pay the town, big lave, Vinny Scarfader, this few ruddy texts and Cotin and the Nook on Australia, nor mean to if we brew Simon text Astru and all us Igutna kun beg over the Danga Gutna Satauki Martian Shinna made of all the Vini.
Magad Seán, Tashin Anu Soidach. Peter will again Budisha sort of on a which clue the Hugin, Gerhartung Didem Derek. It's mean weeks ago in our country or those boy, just kind of raw, but would feel Vich the Julie, August Seán, as in Cursius at Dentaku, or role on Lee Hangoli, or is there going to be Garna Thane Gudisha? Mila Buichas Freshen, Le Maria SERFIOTI, as known summary Nikomortish Avinu. Thanks to you, Maria, for explaining the competition to us in such accurate detail and in such a user-friendly way. Over special Kincha, our special Kincha Avin Ra Egan Truraka, Augustan Anwich Duntrur. Kasunugam Gur over Dochish, Visa Seminar Grace Ansha, the Vakvina Avi in Argenta. Erlina, agus time buchtív as space a leru sin amacht. Tá an rein genohiachtige tiltenach, maar doort me, agus abelte, kauru le dine a jenon iritas fust sanentas Europach. Is veder lin taku liv, Sinean an free tachtuch taguin, shol refust hugging, egen shola EU jobs at DFA.ie, ma ta iritas a jen of a gut fust sanentas Europach. Mas minat Branner and seminar Grace on Shaw Reach, no a rank to Dineganella, by share father Hunter's YouTube, Narina Galua. It's Fedlat Mujach Lanud Freshen, Twitter, EU Jobs Ireland, mas special on Tolus is Dani, Fina Mahti, a veg or Rachtal Green a Machanshaw, Agus fi Horsi Aluna, Agus Pussy Exula, Senentus Europach all. Leshin, Gramina Mahagov, as Velin and you, Agus Canary go Galliv. Song before.
Gramina
Magad Hammond.